All right, thank you to everyone that's watching tonight, either at home or at one of our amazing venues here in Wagga. My name's Riley Hunter. I'm the president of the Wagga Business Chamber and MC for tonight, so lucky you. To bring you this event tonight, we've partnered with the BEC, Wagga Wagga City Council, and New South Wales Small Business Month. I'd like to start by introducing you to Dom Kennedy from Wagga Wagga City Council.
Thanks, Riley, and welcome to everyone online. It's a bit of a strange experience. We've got a good group of people here. Hopefully you're all enjoying things either in the other locations, and we do have 5 locations for this, so it's a great event that we're trying to have a bit of a hybrid thing going on. So I'd like to start out by, well, first of all, my name's Dom Kennedy. I'm with Wagga City Council. I'm the Economic Development Officer for Wagga City Council, and it really, this is my 3rd time doing one of these small business events, and really enjoy interacting with people and understanding what's going on out there. I'd like to start with the acknowledgement of country. So I'd like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people, who are the traditional custodians of the land that we are meeting on today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging of the Wiradjuri Nation, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people who are present today. Councillor Dan Hayes would have loved to be here, but he's checking in from his home online. So if anyone has any questions that they'd like to direct directly to Dan, please jump on the chat function of the app. He'll be monitoring that and happy to answer any questions live. I did just want to touch on a couple of things from a council perspective. We have been involved, we're trying to be very proactive with the businesses, small businesses especially, understanding the heartbeat of this city. If we don't have small businesses, we don't have big business. So we have put out a lot of things like a COVID relief package. If anyone's not familiar with that, please stop in and chat with me afterwards. That was introduced by councillors earlier in the year. It was things like rent relief, and we increased the grant funding for small businesses and things like that. So I'd be happy to talk about anything that's associated with that COVID relief package earlier on. Otherwise, I just want to leave it with the fact that please reach out to me either online or here in person. If you have any questions about council and how to operate your business, how to work with council, I'm happy to support you. Unfortunately, I was featured on the front page of the magazine, of the Daily Advertiser, not too long ago. It wasn't something I was really hoping for, but that was around footpath dining and taking advantage of the space on the main street, and because we have to think a bit differently about things, we're trying to encourage people to get outside, eat outside, and do that. But if you have any questions about the process, paperwork, anything like that, I'll be happy to support you. Anyway, I'll leave it with that. Now I'm going to hand over to Casey from the BEC. Thanks.
Thank you, Dom. Hello, everyone. Firstly, I would just like to say how nice it is to actually be looking at a room full of people rather than my own face on a computer screen. I am from the BEC. I am a digital advisor with the Business Connect program. Sorry, joking there. The BEC are really excited to be supporting small businesses through Small Business Month and every month. So we run all year round. We offer subsidised business, digital marketing and manufacturing advice, and we are funded by the New South Wales Government. And we are funded by the federal government under the Digital Solutions program. So at each of your venues tonight, there is a Business Connect or ASBAS provider. If you have any questions, you can definitely come and see one of us and we can help you out. The last thing that I would just like to say as well is we're really, really excited. We are opening a holistic, down-to-earth marketing firm. So if you are looking for logos, business advice, marketing help, social media, anything like that, My Little Marketing Co is ready to help you and take your questions, I suppose. If you have any other questions, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, BEC Business Advice. Thank you again for being here today. We're very excited to be partnering with Wagga City Council and the Business Chamber, and I will not take up any more of your time. I will hand back over to Riley so we can get started.
Thank you, Casey and Dom. And I think, like they both said anyway, definitely take them up on their offer to provide any advice and whatnot as well. So either hit them up throughout the evening or after that. I know, Dom's very experienced within the economic development sort of side of things here in Wagga and very passionate about what he does too. So definitely take advantage of that, guys. Alrighty. So at the Business Chamber, we're obviously here to support businesses, and one of the ways we do this is by promoting and networking events. So obviously we've come off the back of the Crow Awards 2.0, which was really, really successful. We had a huge following with that on our social media pages, and it was just a great way to contribute to pumping in some dollars to the local economy on that night anyway. So thanks everyone that supported that. Now, we know that people are starting to get sick of the good old webinar at the moment too, so as Dom stole my word that I was going to use, which I stole from Adam earlier this week, but we are looking to bring more and more hybrid type events like this as well, so where we do have the live stream happening, so we can reach you at home, and obviously people here at the venues as well. So again, like I mentioned before, we're broadcasting across 5 venues. So we're here at the Thirsty Crow tonight, we're at Mechanico, we're at Romano's Hotel, the Curious Rabbit and the William Farrer Hotel. So thank you very much to all those venues for hosting and contributing. I think we got a free drink and some light sort of meals and stuff like that. So thanks again, guys. We want this tonight to be as interactive as possible. So we encourage you to make sure you have downloaded the Porsche. Have I got that right, Adam? Yep, the Porsche app. The link actually, which you all would have been sending your emails anyway. So I got in there and tested it out this afternoon. It is extremely easy. Adam's done a fantastic job with that. And again, another local business owner and startup with that as well. So thank you very much, Adam. And again, there is a chat function. Like I said, it's extremely easy. So I see people here now jumping on it, which is great. So fire through your questions and we will bring those to Anthony probably at the end of the evening as well. So tonight we'll be talking about how does a small business build a big brand. So learning tools, tips and tricks to create more effective advertising from our guest, Anthony Moss. I should have read this before, shouldn't I? Rookie error. I'm blaming Serena. Alrighty, so who is Anthony Moss? So we had a good catch up with him earlier this week. He's a really, really good guy. Himself and Dom have won a championship football over in the States. They keep talking about anyway, so it just drags on and on. Anthony has 20 plus years in advertising as a writer. He started in the mailroom and worked his way up to the executive creative director. He spent 6 years working in America. Yes, Dom, we know, you won that ring. It's all good. 3 years in Colorado and 3 years in New York. So he's also previously worked for Coke, Microsoft, Amex, Toyota, NRMA, VB and Westpac. He's completed projects in Spain, Japan, Germany and Switzerland. He's won creative and effectiveness awards around the world, and he's helped a company called DDB with Coles and Kmart accounts this year. So I'll stop carrying on now anyway, and thank you very much, Anthony Moss.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm glad you've invited me here to share some stories about when Dom and I won footy grand final in Colorado. I'm speaking today from the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I wish to acknowledge them as our traditional owners. I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present and Aboriginal elders from other communities who may be here with us today. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very jealous I'm not there in person with you. I can't leave a 5K radius from my front door at the moment. So to be at a bar with you guys in Wagga is an absolute dream come true. So let's get started. I'm going to share a few examples of how to build a small business into a big brand, and there's a bit of research here that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share some tips and tricks, and I'm going to hopefully have a bit of fun. As Riley said, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat via the website, and we can cover those at the end. First, we're going to talk about understanding the changing landscape. I think it's been a challenging year by any measurement for most of us. So how does that change for a small business? Then we're going to talk about the consumer and how shopping patterns have changed this year. We'll cover a bit about emotional versus rational decision making and how your advertising and your communications can tailor certain messages. We'll talk about businesses that have pivoted and potential ways that you could take your small business and give it a little nudge to create new revenue streams. We'll talk a little bit about social media and how you can get the most out of your social media platforms. And then I'll give you some advertising tips and tricks from some platforms that I use in the business. But first of all, I'm going to answer this question, which has come up a lot lately. How is retail going to be different leading into So Christmas 2020, I think we're all hoping for a really special event. We've been starved of contact and seeing our loved ones and our friends for so long. So Christmas this year is, there's a lot of pressure on it. So here are some stats about the changing landscape and how we can understand it. McKinsey Insights have done some research, and they've come to the conclusion that staying in is the new going out. Basically, as a result of COVID, we got so good at creating sanctuaries out of our homes. Our homes became our office, our gym, our schools for our children, our restaurants because we couldn't eat out. So coming out of COVID, McKinsey are expecting us to, want to stay nested a little bit more than ever because of this newfound pleasure in the comforts of our own home. And during the crisis, many people invested in upgrading their homes through a range of equipment or hobbies or routines that they developed that they previously didn't have. Bread makers, for example, have seen a rise of around 650%. Weight training gear for the home has seen an increase in around 300%. So if you own a bakery in Wagga or if you own a gym in Wagga, those sorts of upticks in sales are going to essentially compete with your business. So how can you address that? I think it's important to know that as a baker, do you start to sell your own ingredients for people to bake at home? Or as a gymnasium, do you potentially shift into more online classes, which you've probably been doing for a while anyway, but on an ongoing basis? Is that going to be the new normal? The other thing that's interesting is more and more people have shifted their purchases to online. I think groceries have always generally been a fairly standard thing to purchase online, but as you look down this list, and hopefully it's not too small on your screens, things like household supplies, tobacco, even jewelry have seen massive increases in people shopping online for these things. I've never bought jewelry online before, but according to this research, there's been an increase of about 57% of online jewelry sales. Even things like alcohol, footwear, books and apparel, the list goes on. And the interesting thing is, there's a bunch of people that are continuing to completely shop online post-COVID. So when it comes to things like groceries, 143% more customers intend to purchase all their groceries online moving forward. Same as fitness and wellness, snacks. Again, jewelry, there's going to be a 38% uptick is the forecast. So ensuring that your business has a really good, strong online presence is obviously super important now more so than ever. Looking at Christmas 2020, this Sunday, one of our clients is Kmart, and we're launching the Kmart Christmas ad on Sunday. I don't think they've ever launched a Christmas campaign in October before, but Kmart understand that shopping this year is going to be very, very different. They're encouraging people to shop earlier and be more prepared because we know that Australia Post is under stress. We know that their stores are going to be under stress, and we know that their customers aren't going to want to go to a crowded store where they have to be too close to other people. So Christmas is very different this year, and this slide's all about spending intentions. If you look at that red line up the top, that's the line of people who intend to spend the same amount of money as they did last year. And in 2019, 63% of respondents intended to spend the same. This year, that's dropped by about 12% to 51% of people intend to spend the same as last year. And the green line that almost meets that red line is the amount of people who intend to spend less than last year, which is around 34% of people. And when you break that down by age and state, the numbers are something that that small businesses around Australia should be aware of. That demographic around 35 to 54-year-olds, the green bar on the graph on the left, shows that there's around 40% of people who are going to spend the same as last year, and around 38% of that demographic are going to spend less. And the younger audience, 18 to 34-year-olds, there's about 40% of them who intend to spend less than last year. And it's not just a Victorian issue. Even though Melbourne has the strictest lockdowns at the moment, obviously with international travel off the cards for the end of this year, towns like Wagga are really going to rely on that local tourism of visitors coming from interstate to come and see what you guys have to offer. So while New South Wales hasn't been affected as much as some of the other states, obviously Victoria there is the worst, with more people intending to spend less this year than the people who are intending to spend the same. It does impact you guys and your businesses as well. So moving on to the next question, which is an important one for a small business. Is there such thing as a loyal customer? The short answer to that is yes and no. And let's unpack that a little bit. And we can understand the customer in very simple terms. Customers are humans too, and we often don't talk about them as people. And as anyone sitting in the room or at home today can imagine, our brains are full of very, very disparate, important, pressing items and things. Our families, our friends, what's for dinner, is the phone bill paid? So for us to assume that our brand is a top of mind of a consumer or an individual, it's just wrong. So it's important to remember that even people who we feel are loyal customers, they can get intercepted at the point of purchase and make a different shopping decision at any moment along the purchase journey. So even though they usually buy the same brand every time in and out, if there's a sale one day, all of a sudden that loyalty goes out the window. And I think it's the same with small businesses. If there's a promotion or if there's some bad press, for example, your loyal customers can disappear super quickly. And that's because your customers are other people's customers who occasionally buy you. I think it's really important to remember that. And as a small business, you've got to perpetually fill this perpetually leaky bucket. And remembering that just because someone chooses you one time doesn't mean they'll automatically choose you next time. So every sale is so important. And I know I don't have to say this to a room full of small business people, but customers forget, or will be out of stock, or will be less available, or will be busy, or we won't return the quote in time. So, always filling that leaky bucket is super important, and not relying on what we think are loyal customers. And it's the same for all brands in all categories all around the world. I've had the pleasure of working on some of these brands, and every one of them has the same graph when it comes to loyalty. That bar on the left, the highest bar, is non-users. Every brand has a much higher amount of non-users than users. The next bar is people who use them once. Then the next bar is people who use them twice. And then as you go along the graph, it's the frequent loyal users. There is no brand on the planet that has a graph like the one on the bottom left that has a smaller amount of non-users than they have amount of frequent users. So it's up to us to embrace the fact that exceptional levels of loyalty just don't exist. And I think when it comes to, Wagga and small businesses, it's important that while you have regular customers, they're not necessarily loyal customers, because people can be swayed at any moment of that journey. The next question is, are rational or emotional messages more effective in advertising? It's a really good question. And it's something that is often asked of us as an agency, and the answer is they have to work in tandem. And quite simply, once upon a time, we used to think that the logical mind was in control, and advertisers used to put up ads like this one here that says, more doctors smoke Camels than any other brand. So the consumer is led to believe that if the doctor approves this cigarette, it must be the best. And you've probably heard of, Whiter Whites, or, the world's strongest glue, or whatever it is. They're rational proof points. They don't make me feel anything for the brand. And now we know that the emotional brain rules, and that those rational proof points are A, super easy for competitors to come and claim, but B, they don't build any long-term momentum. So even if your marketing strategy is the most complicated and watertight, if your competitor has an ad that has a cute baby in it, or even a puppy or a kitten, then that competitor's ad is going to be noticed, and it's going to be loved more than your watertight, rational marketing strategy. So it's really important to embrace that emotional storytelling, because 95% of the decisions you make on a daily basis are subconscious decisions. Why? Because our brains are lazy, and emotion helps our brains make quick, intuitive decisions especially when it comes to brands. We've got so many decisions to make on an hourly basis that we just default to what our mind already knows or what we already think. And Daniel Kahneman, who looks a bit more like a horror movie character here than a Nobel Prize winning psychologist, has done a bunch of clinical research experiments, and his work has conclusively proven, and I love this quote of his, that we actually think much less than we think, which is absolutely true. He's broken down our brains and our decision-making process into two systems. System one is intuition and instinct, and that's 95% of our decisions are made on, emotional. It's unconscious, it's fast, it's based on association, it's on automatic pilot based on our biases and heuristics. System two is the rational thinking, which is slow, it's logical, it's indecisive, economic, and it's based on reason and intellect. And we know that this is true because when you see this kind of an imagery on a cigarette packet, you think, why would anyone smoke? It's because smoking is an emotional decision. If it was a rational decision, we wouldn't do it. No one would ever pick up a cigarette because we know it's not good for you. But it's an emotional decision, and these sorts of images don't work because they're talking to the rational brain. Oops, sorry, double flick then. So the key here is that emotional priming and rational triggering is the way to grow a small business. So this is a fairly complicated graph, but let's break it down. The green zigzag line represents short-term uplifts in sales over time. And what that means is when you go on sale, you have an end-of-year clearance, you go 50% off, you'll see an uptick in your sales, but as soon as that sales activity goes, the sales drop off a cliff too. It's not a sustainable model, and you always have to chase your tail, and it doesn't build any long-term growth. Whereas the red line is emotional brand building and priming, which is communications that make people feel something for your brand and like your brand. So even when the competition go on sale, they've got a feeling and an emotional attachment to you and your brand, and they'll choose you over someone else. And together, those two would have to work in tandem. Short-term sales activations as well as long-term emotional brand building is what grows a business. And we do a lot of work with all of our clients all the time about getting that mixture right, brand building activity as well as retail short-term sales driving activity. In the first 6 months of this model, the short-term effects will dominate, but over time, the 6 month to 18-month mark, they'll start to snowball, and the emotional benefits of your business and the rational proof points of sales will start to work tenfold. The next question is about future-proofing a business. I wish I had the answer to every business to future-proof, but what we can talk about here is how and where to pivot. And I think times change, consumers change. As we've already mentioned, 2020 has thrown a bunch of curveballs at us already. So knowing when and where to pivot is really, really important for any business. And as a small business, your job is not to make people care about things, it's to make things that people care about. So I think it's important to embrace the fact that people's natural state is disinterested in what it is that you've got to say. So everything you do has to work hard to get their attention. Constantly listen to your demographic and your audience for signals of cultural interest, and reduce friction points at every step to make them purchasing you or choosing you as easy as possible. Sorry, looks like it's a bit jammed on this slide. So the businesses who own tomorrow are those that understand that evolution is simply a cost of doing business, and businesses always change. And the way to understand evolution is to challenge the business that you're really in. So work out what is it that you do as a business, not what product do you sell, but what business are you in? And we'll talk about that on the next couple of slides. The other thing is to understand your strengths and competencies and deficiencies to identify new revenue streams. If you want to be the fastest in something, maybe you can't be the strongest. If you want to be the most expensive, then you have to forego something else in that mix. So knowing where your strengths are and where your deficiencies are really important. And I'll draw your attention to the example of Kodak, which was a multi-billion dollar business only 15 years ago, 20 years ago. In the early 2000s, Kodak had us all hooked on film cameras and developing photos. And they put a lot of money and a lot of research into the world's best photographic film and developing paper. And they use a similar model to Gillette razors, where they basically give the cameras away for free because they knew that you needed their film to operate those cameras to their best. And then you get those photos developed on their paper. So it was this, golden egg that they had. It's a bit like the way the Gillette almost give away the handle of the shaver, but you've got to buy the razors and they're really expensive. Video games do the same thing. The PlayStation console itself isn't expensive. The games are very expensive. But Kodak, when the home computer boom happened in the early 2000s, Kodak weren't fast enough to shift. And Fujifilm saw this change coming, and they said, we're not in the photographic business or the photography business, we're in the memories business. And as the world moves to digital, what we're going to have to do is move to digital too, because memories can be digital. They don't need to be hard copy. So what they did is they started to downplay their photography, paper and film business, and they started to upweight their digital camera business and memory card business. Whereas Kodak were too slow to move and almost fell off a cliff within a couple of years, and they died. They did not understand a point to pivot. So here's what you guys can do, a little challenge for yourselves to take home with you, a simple but powerful way to widen our often narrow aperture when it comes to looking at our own businesses. Look at your business through different eyes, and this is a really interesting challenge to do. How would a child view your business? Do they like coming there? Does it smell good? Are they scared of the front door? Do they like the people that work there? How about an elderly person? Is it easy to access your business? Is it easy to find it on the internet? What would a wealthy person think about your business, or a poor person? Or a local versus a tourist? I think this is a really interesting one. If your small business in Wagga relies on word of mouth and a local community commitment, then how's a tourist ever going to find you? How's a tourist going to know about the business that you're in? And also a customer versus a competitor. Are your competitors scared about your business? Do they follow your social profile to see what you're up to? Because you want them to do that. You want them to fear you. Then with that new perspective, it's really important to reconsider your story. So like that Kodak example, Kodak were in the photography business. They weren't in the memory business when they should have been in the memory business, because memories are future-proof. So if you're a travel agent, are you in the travel business, or are you in a business that helps facilitate customers' lifelong dreams? Are you in the car rental business, or are you in the freedom and independence business? Do you just sell lottery tickets, or are you giving people little moments of escape on a weekly basis? Once you understand what business you're really in, you can start to unlock new opportunities. And when they zig, you zag. Here are some examples of, I'm sure you guys have heard of most of these already, but during COVID, businesses who saw opportunities for new revenue streams and realized that they weren't necessarily in the hotel business, we're in the venue business. So there are hotels out there that are offering day rates for those that don't have a home office. You don't need to go to touch the bed. We've got a desk, we've got Wi-Fi, we've got air conditioning, we've got all you need for a home office. Curbside pickup for restaurants. Ride shares offering courier services, because Uber aren't in the passenger moving business. They're in the logistics business. They move things from A to B. Restaurants that sell groceries or cook at home meals, they're not in the restaurant business. They're in the food business. Passenger planes delivering packages, personal trainers moving their classrooms entirely online, distilleries switching up to hand sanitizer. Or this last one is something we did for our client VW. When car dealerships had to close, we moved everything to online, and we've established the largest online car dealership in the world. We've sold $80 million worth of vehicles this year alone, which is an absolute amazing success story. But VW were able to pivot quickly enough to realize that we can't sell cars if our dealerships aren't open. So how are we going to get people moving again? And these two visuals down the bottom, there's that one on the right, 13 Things. A taxi company in Melbourne called 13 Cabs have decided they're not in the cab business. They're not in the people moving business. As I said, they're in the courier business or the logistics business. You can get them to pick up your shopping, bring home, something that you left at the office, deliver a Christmas gift, whatever. You call 1-3 things and you put your package in a taxi. So the next question is about social channels. And hopefully you guys, for your businesses, have social channels, if not one, a number. And the question is, do they all serve the same purpose? And the answer to this is a hard and fast no. Every social channel serves a very different purpose. So let's chat a little bit about getting the most out of your social media platforms. But first, this little reminder from Facebook data in 2017. So it's dated information. It's probably more than this now, but people thumb through around 300 feet of content every day on a Facebook feed, which is roughly the height of the Statue of Liberty. So if you can imagine just sitting on your phone and scrolling for 300 feet, that's a lot of ground to cover. So if you want your message to stand out, you really have to make it vibrant and interesting and capture attention straight away. So when we talk about social channels at your disposal, there are all the usual suspects: Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Twitch. But you should not be thinking of these social channels as channels. You should be thinking of social as behaviours. And I'll tell you what I mean about that. When you think of the way you use your profiles, every channel or every social platform has a different set of behaviours. So the way we behave on Instagram is not the same way we behave on LinkedIn. Instagram is a place to search and scroll. Facebook is a place that we share. Pinterest is a place for inspiration. Twitter is a place we go to for news or customer service. TikTok's a place to play. WhatsApp's a place to check in with friends and family. YouTube is a place for stories. Snapchat a place for friends. LinkedIn is for work, and Twitch is for streaming video games. And when you think about your own personal profile pictures, the profile picture you put up on LinkedIn is very different to the profile picture you have on Facebook, because they're serving different purposes, they're talking to different people, and they're expressing different behaviors. So it's really important to keep in mind channels of social platforms as behaviors instead of channels. And the other thing to remember is that social content moves very, very quickly, and it evolves with short-lived trends and audience shifts and behaviors. So be adaptable and be culturally attuned to ensure that whatever you're posting is remaining relevant to your target audience. We've all seen the dab and the floss, and if you think back just 10 years ago, the planking trend, you want to be culturally attuned, you want to be on time, you want to be relevant to your audience. So keep an eye on social media behaviors and trends that are happening at the time, and obviously tap into those trends. So the next question is, how can I make ads? As a small business, you don't have the budget or the time to engage advertising agencies, and like everything else in your small business, you're doing it all yourself. So the way you can make ads is with a bunch of very simple tips and tricks and tools that I'm going to share with you now to help you make more emotive ads and more emotive storytelling from your social media behaviors, not platforms. And all of these tips and tricks and tools also work with short-term retail activations too. It's not just for brand building ads. But sorry, this slide's lost its way a little bit, but there are 5 main ways for a business to grow. Price and cost penetration. So you could charge more and cut costs. You could innovate your product by launching new products and new channels. You could diversify, which is moving into new categories or creating new partnerships. You can move into new markets, which is getting new people to buy you. Or that last one is penetration. You can get existing buyers to buy you more often. And going along that spectrum from left to right, there's little or no impact from advertising on the price and cost side of things on the left-hand side. But when it comes to diversification, new markets and penetration, your advertising can have a high impact. So a couple of creative principles that I want you to take away from tonight is that it's really important to hero your brand early and often. make sure that there's no mistake that that social post is coming from you and your business. The second thing is to design for mobile. We all live through our mobile devices these days. You've got to be attention grabbing. You can't just take something off TV and throw it on mobile. It doesn't work. And it's like the behaviors that we looked at in LinkedIn versus Facebook. People are expecting different things. People demand different things. And it makes it too easy to scroll past if your communications aren't designed with a mobile device in mind. Thirdly, use sound to delight, not to tell the story. Most consumers consume social media with the sound off. They're at work, or they're on the bus, or they're doing something else, and it's a bit of an escape. So sound is off most of the time. So use the audio feature as a little surprise and delight, not to tell the story the way you would in a TV ad where we know the sound is on. 4, capture your attention with new story arcs. Again, when you think about a movie or a TV series, or even one of those cooking shows, they show you the recipe, they show you the ingredients, they show you the method, and they end with the finished story, which is the cooked item. When it comes to social, you've got to throw that on its head. You start with the finished product to capture people's attention so they know what they're watching, and then you go through all of the elements to get there. Imagine someone on social media posting a recipe that says, now you get 2 eggs, now you crack it into the flour, now you mix it like this. The audience is gone. They've thumbed straight past you straight away. And then the 5th key principle is to keep your message in the creative, keep your key message in the creative all the time. Make sure that there's no mistaking what it is that you're talking about. So I've got a few examples here of what I mean. These are from some big brands, but there's no reason why your businesses can't do this same kind of work, heroing these same principles. So number 1, this one's for Cadbury Caramel. Hero your brand early and often. As you can see from the first frame, the Cadbury brand's already up there, and it's already using the Cadbury brand colours. So I'll play you this one. How do you enjoy caramel? And then straight into visual. And again, you can see point number 2, design for mobile. They've done a great job of, in that example, heroing their brand and clearly designing it for the mobile phone screen. This KFC one, there's a bit of audio to it, but clearly, again, designed for mobile and shot for mobile. Everything's in the center of the screen, big, bold supers, fits that square frame perfectly, and really interestingly filmed. Number 3, use sound to delight, not to storytell. So this is an example. I mean, it uses a celebrity, this one, which you guys probably aren't going to be doing, but it's a good way of getting people's attention and using sound as a delightful aspect.
It really wasn't worth turning your sound off for.
The next one is exactly what I was mentioning earlier about cooking shows on TV. You start at the beginning, you finish at the end. When it comes to social media, to capture someone's attention, you've got to create new story arcs. That's why I'm sure you'll start to notice now whenever you flick through your Instagram or Facebook, the way that stories are told, it's all backwards. If you're watching some highlights, they'll show you the best goals, and then they'll show you the way that the goal happened, for example. Or in boxing, they'll show you the knockout, and then they'll show you the round that led up to the knockout. So they really start with the punchline. So that's a 6-second recipe there. It started with the finished product and then showed you very quickly how to do it. And if that's captured your attention, you can swipe up to get that recipe. Then finally, keeping the key message in the creative at all times. This one was for NAB Bank, about this guy who loses everything when he travels. So again, using some of the principles we've already mentioned, it's shot for mobile. It uses sound to delight, not to storytell. There was no narration over the top, and the creative was in there, and the messaging was clear. Using new story arcs. So even though that was footage from their TV ad, they re-edited it for social media. Then there are a couple of guiding principles that I want to take you through that we've already kind of touched on. This first one, to leverage existing behaviours rather than to reinvent them. When it comes to social media trends and even calendar events, things like Halloween's coming up, footy finals are coming up, Melbourne Cup, Christmas, all these things that we know that everyone is sharing together. You can build emotive storytelling into that because we have that commonality as a calendar that we're all going through the same thing. So leverage existing behaviours. 2, try and add value in feed. It's really important to provide utility or entertainment or inspiration. And thirdly, to use your brand's assets to inspire content creation and conversation. Use your logo, use your products, use your imagery, use your staff, and invite your audience to join the conversation. So an example of leveraging existing behaviours, we're coming up to Halloween. Can you create a Halloween menu? The beauty of doing something like this is that not only is it kind of thumb-stopping imagery that people are preparing for at the moment, but it's the sort of thing that once you get customers in the door, they'll take the same photo and they'll post it to their feed, which starts to then snowball that effect. So leveraging existing behaviours, even from a calendar point of view, not just a social media trend point of view. Add value in feed is super important. This is something that was posted not long ago about this guy. He's a gardener, and what he does is he sets up a tripod, he puts his phone on time-lapse mode, and he films himself doing these oddly satisfying jobs, and it's just him at work. And then he posts these, and obviously with his business's logo and brand, with his phone number, and he can create this content just by doing work. It's oddly satisfying to watch, and it's the sort of thing that adds value in feed. It's infinitely watchable. So for the gardeners in the audience tonight, or the painters, there's no reason that you couldn't set up something like this where you get a tripod and a camera and just film yourself doing your job. Edit it, put some music to it, and then obviously use the story arcs to start at the end potentially, and just create some value in feed. Inspire content creation and conversion and conversation. I mean, Starbucks are masters at this. This is one of their limited edition unicorn frappuccinos. It sounds like the most American disgusting drink you could imagine, but it sells out within hours whenever they release it. I think it's got more sugar than 5 Mars bars put together. But it's not made for the person consuming it. It's made for the person consuming it to put on their social channels. So they always see this huge uptick in social media behavior whenever they launch products like this, because people just can't wait to get their hands on it and take a photo of themselves holding it, and create memes out of it and create videos out of it, and have a bit of fun. So inspire content and generate conversation. Probably smart to use a hashtag too, so it's something that people can search for and find the content that is related to that product that you've developed. So this is one of the other thoughts I thought I'd throw in here, which is one of the new ways of generating business for new ways of collaborating. It's a silly idea, but Prime Cuts Wagga, what's stopping a local butcher, a local lawnmower, and a local barber shop creating a collaboration that benefits all 3 businesses and makes it easier for consumers to tick off, visit each business within a certain period of time and get a discount, almost like a coffee card that creates a collaborative environment around small businesses coming together in Wagga. You've got very similar challenges and business objectives. So what's stopping you from collaborating with other like-minded small businesses? Actions always speak over words, and audiences really resonate with emotive actions that brands take. And while these 2 posts aren't necessarily brands, the one on the left is a bride and groom whose wedding was cancelled because of COVID, donated and then served their food to a children's shelter. There's no reason that the catering company couldn't have done that too. Or this grandfather who has this rare skin condition that crochets dolls that have the same skin condition as him to make children with that same skin condition feel a bit better. This sort of thing gets shared, it gets loved, it gets talked about, and it starts to build an emotive connection with you and your brand. And it really isn't that difficult. Often we think that it has to, have a financial benefit to whatever we do, but things like that, these kind of actions, large gestures, can pay back much more than a sale. Starting at the end is always really important too, not just in the way that you edit or create your content, but knowing what the end point is. What's your call to action? What's the role of the communications? Are you priming your audience? Are you nudging them closer to a sale, or are you converting into a sale? And what does success look like? And if you can identify those things, you'll know what the call to action should be. And this is just some examples of Facebook calls to action. Do you want people to request a time? Do you want people to get a quote? Do you want people to start an order on the spot? Or do you want people to get tickets now? And it's amazing how effective direct calls to action like this are with consumer behavior. As I said, we're emotive beings. 95% of our decisions are emotional. So if I've decided that I want to go with this quote, if you make it easy for me that says get quote, then you're one step closer to closing the deal. Then a couple of tools of the trade I've got for you here, which hopefully you'll find this section really, really helpful. This first one is called the Noun Project. And the Noun Project is a website. This should play a video, hopefully. A website of icons. So you can type in any icon you want. I'm typing in coffee cups there. And then you hit the search bar, and then icons of coffee cups come up. So when you're creating posters or social posts or business cards, even whatever it may be, nounproject.com, you can sign up, subscribe, and find these icons. That was obviously for swimming, and then there's all these different swimming icons that you can create. So really handy for building a website and social posts, and something that's super simple to download. You can, when you subscribe, you can get them in color, you can download them and reshape them, and they're super handy. This next one is called Unsplash, and this is a free image library, high resolution stock photos that are for free. So here I'm searching for farmer, and this is the sort of quality of images that you get. And they're user generated images from around the world. This one happens to be from Bowral in Australia. But user generated high resolution images that are free. All the photographers ask you to do is credit them if you want. You don't have to give them a credit in your poster or your website or wherever it may be, but you can if you want. That's when I typed in for butchers. There are some really high resolution, beautiful images of butchers doing what they do. And for any small business, you'll be able to find images that are relevant for you. So as I said earlier, making sure your online presence is as good as it can be. Websites like unsplash.com are a great way to find visuals. This next one is an app called Pixaloop. I've got this app on my iPhone, and what it does is it takes still shots and it animates them. So that waterfall is not actually moving because this is a still photo. What they've done through Pixaloop is they've just selected areas of the photo and they've dragged the area to create the motion, and it merges pixels and creates that flow as if there's movement in your visuals. And moving pictures on social are always much more engaging than stills. So I urge you to download Pixaloop and have a play with it. It's a lot of fun. You can create running water, you can create moving flames, you can have a lot of fun with it. It's also got a bunch of overlays to put on top of the photos, like stars or dust or glitter and that sort of thing, to really enhance your still photography. This next one, a lot of templates on you upload images of your product and create social posts straight away. So you throw in a logo, you upload it to all of your accounts straight away, and there you go. You can animate, and drive business straight away. These sorts of social posts, I mean, I said earlier that you guys don't need an agency of your own. Ripple is like having an ad agency in your pocket. You can create some really interesting content with Ripple. This next one's a fun one. Okay, this is a Google product called Google Auto Draw. You just type in autodraw.com into your browser. It doesn't say that it's a Google product anywhere, but it is a Google app. And it's made for people like myself who aren't great illustrators, but the robotic intelligence within this website can turn your rubbish drawings into fantastic little icons. And now I'm going to just draw a shark on here. And it won't be a good shark because that's the whole point of this program. And then when I'm kind of finished drawing a shark, you'll see all these little icons appear up the top here. And that is Google's Auto Draw asking me, did I mean any of these? No, I didn't want an aeroplane or a crocodile or a breaching dolphin. I wanted something more like these sharks. So let's go with that one. Then down here, you can move it around, scale it up. You can, let's add a bit of color. Let's make him a purple shark. And then we'll add text. So, Wagga Shark Club. Pop it in there. We will change the font, scale it up, and there is our Wagga Shark Club image ready to go, ready to be output into an email or a social post, whatever it may be. Autodraw.com. It's a lot of fun, and it is super cool. So that was Google Auto Draw. Again, just a fun bit of software to play around with. Which brings me to the end of the chat tonight. Hopefully that's been helpful. In terms of a wrap-up, I think going back to the start of our conversation, knowing where your business fits into this new normal, what consumers are going to be looking for as we head into Christmas 2020, and where they're going to be shopping, how they're going to be shopping. Is my brands and my small businesses messaging too rational and not emotional enough? And have I got that balance right by that emotional priming layer that's always on and those rational drivers that convert sales? What are the opportunities in my business to pivot, and what business am I really in? Is there opportunities that I'm leaving on the table that I'm not changing with the times enough? Am I using social behaviours or am I using social channels? Keeping in mind that people who follow you probably follow you on a number of platforms, so don't post the same thing everywhere. Use social behaviours instead of social channels. And what tools and tricks can I start to use today? And when I use those tools and tricks like Ripple or Auto Draw or the Noun Project, and I start to create my own social media content, what creative principles do I remember from starting with a new story arc, using sound to add value, not to tell the story, heroing my brand early and often, and keeping the creative message in all of my executions. So that is it from me. Thank you very much. I'll hand it now back to Riley, and we can potentially take some questions if you're not all asleep.
Thanks so much, Anthony. I'm definitely awake. There's loads of gold in that, I think, anyway. So, and again, thank you so much for your time. We're extremely grateful. We're pretty lucky here in Wagga to have someone of your sort of calibre and experience anyway to be able to present to us, if I can speak properly. We've had a couple of questions come through. Let's start this. So both pretty similar actually anyway, but is there any differences that apply when marketing services apart from a product?
It's a good question. I mean, obviously, when we're talking about services, there's not a tangible product to take a photo of and post. So you're relying on the people that offer that service. So I think it's more about talking to, the people themselves. Like that post I shared with you where that guy's cleaning the driveway, and he just sets up a time lapse and films himself. It's about him doing the job. So, things that might seem boring to you in that service you provide, could be really interesting to your target audience. So I think feature the people, obviously, not the product, and the outcome of what you do could be a way to post post rather than that good where it's easy to take a photo of a cupcake and make it look pretty on social media. So yeah, focusing on the outcome of the people, I think, is different.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Anthony. And I've got a couple of questions myself. So, what would you tell people to focus on as a starting point?
I think you've got to keep it simple. I mean, a lot of people think when it comes to advertising and social media, you've got to be kind of wild and wacky. I think it's about simplicity, being true to yourself and true to your business. So I think start with, as I said in my presentation, know what the end point is. So what does success look like? So if you can figure out why you're posting that, hopefully that'll help you get to that end point a bit quicker.
Perfect. And how important is your personal brand within your own business brand itself? Can you touch on that?
Really good question. I think it depends on the brand and the owner of the business and that sort of thing. I mean, you look at Harvey Norman. I mean, it's named after the owner. He has become a spokesman for the brand. So he's an integral part of that brand. Whereas there are other businesses where the product is the hero, and so I think it really depends on who you're talking to, what it is that you're selling, and what your audience want to know more about.
What else we got here? So, and what about? Well, there's a lot of obviously talk around on social media these days around, I guess, which sort of platforms to utilise and things like that as well. So you mentioned probably 8 or 9 different ones you had up on the screen. Would you suggest that businesses focus on sort of 2 or 3 of those, or you go all out on all of them, or what do you think there?
I'd definitely focus on a couple. And I think, again, depending on what your business is, whether it's a good or a service, things like, for example, YouTube, where it's a storytelling platform, if your service is a bit more involved, you might want to tell a bit more of a story. It might be good to buy, 15-second pre-rolls, which are the ads that play before YouTube videos. Whereas if you've got a really nice visual brand or a visual product, Instagram and Facebook make a lot of sense. And also those platforms have got very easy ways for marketers to buy advertising packages, to target audiences, down to the, 10 square meters. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't go broad. I'd start on a couple. And get your social media presence finely tuned on those couple of platforms first, and then you can start to experiment with others as you go.
No problems at all. It looks like we don't have any other sort of questions. Anyone else in the room here tonight? Nope. All good. Like I said, Anthony, thank you so much again. We're extremely grateful for your time tonight, and like I said, we're pretty lucky to have someone like yourself come and present. So. Thank you so much, and we hope to get you back, at least down here to Wagga in person anyway, once the restrictions ease for you. So how are you going with that at the moment?
Oh, it's been tough. I mean, thankfully school started again this week, so I've got one less child in the house. Trying to homeschool and do business is tough, but yeah, I'll take you up on that beer in Wagga as soon as I get out of here.
Sounds good to me. So like I said, thank you very much. Alrighty, just to wrap things up tonight. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Everyone who's attended an event, it's great. And like we said before, these hybrid events are going to become a bit of a way of the future, I think, anyway, moving forward. So thank you to our partners as well, the Wagga City Council and the Business Enterprise Centre here in town. Thanks again to Anthony Moss. I thought it'd be rude of me not to throw in a cheeky little I guess pitch for the chamber, but we've seen a huge uptake in memberships over the last couple of months. So again, it's a great time if you are looking to join an awesome sort of networking community like ourselves. Definitely get in touch with one of the directors today, and we'll point you in the right direction anyway. So. All right, we'd also like to you'll receive a link as well for a short survey. So if you do fill this out, you'll go into the chance to win an hour with Anthony. So he's giving up an hour of his time anyway, so definitely worth your while to jump on and fill out that quick survey. And again, we'd also like to thank Adam Bannister from Pyrus, who not only coordinated tonight, but he's also launched his own platform, Pyrus again, which is extremely successful. Yeah. Like I said, Adam, it's really easy to use sort of platform. I think the questions and things like that and the comments that were coming through, so I'm sure you'll do big things with that anyway, so congratulations. So thank you again, guys, and have a good evening.